Buon pomeriggio a tutti e grazie per l'invito a Rivista Pars. Sono molto onorato di rappresentare la Figiefa oggi qui. Mi chiamo Álvaro della Cruz e come il mio italiano non è buono, continuerò in inglese, mi scusi. For those of you who don't know who Figiefa is, I think everybody of you are aware of already who Figiefa is. We're the Federation of European Distributors and Wholesalers. Our national member association here in Italy is ADIRA. His chairman will speak after me. Just a very brief summary about Figiefa. We are the oldest European automotive association working in Brussels since the 1950s. So we are well known in Brussels, and we have been dealing with European issues for longer than anyone else. We have 19 members in 18 European countries, not only in the European Union. We have members in the United Kingdom, in Norway, in Turkey, and in Switzerland as well. And we also have 6 international trade groups who are members of Figiefa as well. Our mission at the end of the day is to defend the interests of the industry, but also secure that the European legislation has a level playing field with fair competition, and we can continue doing our business. That's basically our task. Those are the core topics we work on: competition, digitalization, right to repair, sustainability, cybersecurity. You're well aware of all of these issues, and I will not dedicate much time now to all of these pillars. If you have any kind of question or want more information, not only you can find it in our website or social media, but you also can contact us afterwards. So what I'm gonna do in this brief session today is explain to you a little bit the achievements of the last year. Last year in this Congress, our chief executive, Sylvia Gotzen, was explaining to you what we were working on. And of course, the end of the European mandate is almost there. We will have European elections next May, June next year. And whatever is not secure and done already by the end of 2023 is very unlikely to happen at all until the next 5 years. So we are now working in the last few months of the European mandate, negotiating with the European Parliament and Commission for the last 2 years, but I am going to report what actually we already secured in the last year for our industry. First of all, the new MVBR, or the extension of the MVBR. This is a very enigmatic legislation for many, and it is quite tricky and complex. But basically, what you need to know about the motor vehicle block exemption regulation is that this is the piece of legislation in Europe that allows us to keep doing our businesses. This is the most significant and important legislation for the aftermarket in Europe, because in general, the European Union don't want specific competition legislation. They want to have open competition and as broad and horizontal legislation as possible. But in this case, they understand, like in other industries, that the specificities and complexity for the industry require a specific legislation for competition in the automotive industry. So basically what happens is that the MVBR, after different formats, has been in place for many years now, but the last version of MVBR was 10 years old and was about to expire 31st of May this year. When the new commission came in power in 2019, exactly 4 years ago, there was no intention whatsoever for them to extend this. They said, no, we will go to an open horizontal competition system for the automotive sector as well. So what we said is no, that it doesn't work for our industry, it's impossible. And what we worked tirelessly in this last few years is to ensure that we had at least an extension and an update of this legislation. So thankfully, this year we achieved a 5-year extension of the MVBR, which will be with us until 2028. But now, the moment we have a new commission and parliament next year, we will need to start right away working to ensure that we will have a new MVBR afterwards, that it is also adapted to the new reality of the market when it comes to digitalization, with the new players, with the new industry policy. And of course, we need to secure a new legislation because the current one cannot be extended again. This is an extension of the previous one, and it cannot be extended again. Just some highlights of this legislation. This legislation actually allows us to access to trade of original and matching quality parts, access to technical information, and the most important, before MVBR, this was not the case. It is thanks to MVBR that legally in Europe, we can repair and maintain any car during the warranty period. And there cannot be any implications or requirements for users that choose to go to an independent repairer during the warranty period. This is only thanks to this piece of legislation. The improvements that we achieved not only extended the previous legislation, but what we achieve in the current one is that now we have a wider range of technical information included, which is activation of codes for spare parts, battery technical information is included now, and also the advanced driver assistance system has to be included as technical information that has to be accessible for the independent repairers. And also in principles for accessing onboard data and information, we have included the vehicle life data, the fact that cybersecurity can now be used as an excuse to withhold any technical information. And actually, a few weeks ago, the European Court of Justice gave us a really good news in a case against Carglass. And now they say they cannot use implementation of the UN cybersecurity regulation to impede the access of independent repairers and parts when accessing even visible parts like screen shields, glasses, bumpers, whatever. And also the vehicle manufacturers' franchise networks are no longer the reference because we don't want to have the access that the authorized repairers have. We want more than that. So we achieved this, and we will report in the next few years what we can do, and we will also be conducting inquiries in all of the European countries to know what are the issues in the workshops and what do we need to really focus our work in the next few years to secure a new MBBR. Then one of the most significant issues in the market, and you're currently aware of it, is the digitalization, which has for us a dual repercussion when it comes to the European legislative agenda. Basically, we are now in between this yin and yang with the Data Act and automotive sector-specific legislation. You all know that Data Act was approved this year, and it is a really good first step because what the European Union now did is establish a horizontal legislation that applies to every single connected device, from an intelligent espresso machine to an Airbus, which says that we don't recognize ownership of data. Nobody owns the data, not the manufacturer, not the user, but the user who paid for the license and is using a device, and by using this device creates in real-time data, the user is entitled to decide who accesses that data, which third party can access, and if I say so, my smartphone or my car will be repaired and had access to that data by whoever I decide. This is fantastic first step, but it's not enough because, as I said, it's a horizontal legislation, and of course, the specifications and technicalities of an intelligent refrigerator and a modern car are very different. So we have been immediately working since the beginning with the Commission to ensure that we had actually a sector-specific legislation that actually takes care of these issues. These are some of the access rights that the Data Act actually is given the aftermarket. You can have these data, all of these slides in our social media and our website, and you can have access also to the entire presentation. Don't worry. And as I was saying, we're trying to achieve a horizontal legislation that would be inserted into the European Union vehicle type approval legislation, and we have suffered, but after months and months and a couple of years of delays, we seem to be close to it. What we are trying to achieve is a simple set of issues. First of all, that all technical available and accessible interfaces, not only on board but also off board, are accessible to us. That in order to compete with the manufacturers, we also have to have access to the human-machine interface, because otherwise they have a huge advantage when they can communicate immediately with the driver in real time. Of course, we need to preserve the OBD port, as and cybersecurity cannot be a blockage. We need to access all the information in advance to be able to also develop apps and services that can compete with the OEMs. And we need, of course, a minimum standardized data set, meaning we need to have every brand with a set of standard data, and not only, as we have now, mileage, temperature, and a couple of others that are not good. And finally, we need a complete transparency. We need the entire list of accessible data points. There were several obstacles. Last year, before Christmas, we understood that the proposal in the Commission was stopped by the cabinet of the Interior Market Commissioner, Mr. Breton. Then we initiated a huge campaign talking to all of the departments of the Commission, having press conferences, papers, and different actions. And we had it set back on track. It went to the scrutiny board in the Commission this spring, and now it's supposed to be adopted last moment of this year. That means we still need to pass it through the Parliament and the Council, but at least we would have a new proposal that we can work on from the very beginning next year. So we cannot lose any time because it's quite important. This is a little bit the departments and cabinets we work with and we address when we hit a second or third delay, and a little bit the actions that we did. AFCAR and ISP coalitions, we work together with power manufacturers, the publishers, the consumers, the drivers, the insurers, the workshops, diagnostic tools, all of the associations joined forces and left alone the manufacturers in Brussels, and that's part of our success, that when we join forces, we are much more stronger. PR campaign, and then this is another dossier that is very important for our sector and that we are right now working on, because the Parliament and the Council adopted their own positions. We have managed to secure our provisions in the proposals, both in the Parliament and Council, and now we enter the phase so-called trilogue, in which Commission, Parliament, and Council negotiate. That's why it's very important that we also have you pushing for the Italian government to be in favor of the aftermarket in this. And basically, the design protection under the European Repairs Clause is basically something that has been on the table for the last 30 years. 30 years ago, the Commission proposed for the first time this piece of legislation to have a harmonized and standardized set of rules in Europe in which you could have your body parts, your visible body parts, repair in an independent workshop with independent parts. As you can see in the current situation, there's some countries that have that in green, some countries that don't have that at all in red, and some that have a hybrid system. Only for you to understand how serious this is, in some countries like Belgium, for example, you can have your car visible parts repaired and replaced by independent operators and independent parts, but it is illegal to import from a country in which that is not legal. It is actually a criminal offense, and it is very, very, very dangerous. So what we actually are now trying to secure is a harmonized place in which every single European country has a design protection repair clause. The Commission is proposing this. Now we are facing a better chance because in the past both Germany and France opposed this legislation. Now it seems that we can have them on board. The Commission is proposing an existing prorogation of 10 years for the existing vehicles. We say that is too much. It will give them a significant advantage if they can still have a monopoly on the visible parts for the next 10 years. We are asking for 3. We are relatively optimistic that maybe we can secure something in between, 5, 6, but we're pushing hard to have the legislation and have the minimum period of transition. We will report you about this at the end of the year or early next year when we have hopefully a final legislation, both in the Council and the Parliament. Then one of the issues that is super significant right now for an industry, and you are well aware of this, is the phenomenon of part coding and cybersecure installation of replacement parts. As you probably know already, besides the European Union, there's an agency of the United Nations in Geneva that has some competences in this area when it comes to sustainability, cybersecurity, and so on. And all of the European countries are signatories of that agency. So every European country is subject to the legislation that the UNECE propose. After the very, very prominent case of this Jeep, which was hacked in the United States, and that family had an accident, many manufacturers made a huge campaign to ensure that we had legislation for cybersecurity in management and software updates and in parts. And basically what the European Union did is actually adopt the R155 and R156 of the United Nations. But the problem was that there was too much room of interpretation. Basically, the legislation says the manufacturers have to ensure the cybersecurity of their parts. And that leaves them a lot of room or interpretation to say, yeah, but as this is cybersecurity vulnerable, you cannot access. And that's when there's problems with accessing the OBD port or this phenomenon of QR codes in the parts, which are completely stupid because sometimes, or the most frequent are, for example, headlights. What kind of cybersecurity problem you will have with a headlight? Well, many workshops are suffering in the country, in every country in Europe, because they have the exact same headlamps to replace in the car. They have the qualification to replace them, but they don't have a QR reader authorized by the manufacturer to actually match with the CPU of the car and be capable to install the light. So maybe they have to reject customers because even though they not have the part and they have the capabilities, they don't have the technical solution to implement that. That we are working to make sure that is completely illegal everywhere in the European Union. And right now, with the ruling of the European Court of Justice, we have a big win in our hands. But now we have to work actually in collaboration with the manufacturers to ensure that we can have a system that secures the security of every car, but that doesn't prevent the independent repairers and the workshops and the independent aftermarket distributors to continue doing their business, because it would not be fair at all. So we have submitted with AFCAR, the European Alliance of Freedom to Repair, different proposals to the member states that are being approved right now. We have a majority of member states already in our favor, so hopefully soon we will have also a good victory in this field. Finally, I want to speak about one of the big issues also of the industry that you will be hearing about constantly in the next few days and months. It's sustainability. Sustainability is a dual issue for the aftermarket, because not only it has some legal requirements that we have to fulfill, but also is a trend that will be imposed by the market, and it is good for you in terms of image. So Figiefa is working in different fields in that sense. First of all, because there's the EU Rights to Repair Directive the European Union is working on right now, and we are supporting it strongly because we have, of course, a very important role to play in the right to repair and the perseverance of the end-of-life vehicles, especially for the most vulnerable families in Europe that have old cars and should be able to repair them. Then we have a packaging and waste regulation right now that is going to be very important for you distributors, because it has, for example, legal requirements such as that no packaging or box would have more than 40% of the volume empty, and we know that our parts have very weird shapes, and not always it is possible to pack and box a part, optimizing the space. So right now it would be legal in a few months to package that with more of 40% of the volume wasted. End-of-life vehicle regulation, corporate sustainability, taxonomy, those are some examples. But what we did last year during Automechanica in Frankfurt is launch an initiative with CLEPA, the European Association of Power Manufacturers, which is FAST, the Forum of Automotive Aftermarket Sustainability, that just became its independent association last week in Bologna during a Future Motive event. And basically, we are having different working groups in the aftermarket to provide actually that our industry is a leader in sustainability and green economy in Europe, because there's still this image associated to cars that we are actually nasty, dirty, and polluting, and it's not necessarily the reality in many of our businesses. And yeah, we're taking the lead in working groups such as CO footprint, remanufacturing, methodology and the calculation of the carbon footprint of our logistics, supply chain optimization. You can join the initiative. You have the website there with all of the information. We have now around 40 members, including top players in the sector, such as Bosch and so on and so forth. And the initiative is going really well, and it can help you really deliver not only an internal policy that is in line with the new European legislation, but also make you be seen as a leader player in the industry, as a green leader player, which might not be the case right now, but in a few years will be extremely important for all of you. This is all from my part. Thank you very much. I hope after lunch and European legislation wasn't the worst combination for you and that you're still awake. Thank you very much for having us. All of our information are in social media and website there. Contact us, ask us whatever you need. And also, again, thank you very much for the Revista part for the invitation. Have a good afternoon.